Hello friends, in this video I want to discuss about page speed optimization for WordPress website and to show which tactics or which optimizations are helpful and worth to apply and which are not that important and which will not make much difference to your page speed. So there are many optimizations and everyone teaches or tells that this is helpful and this is not helpful, but in reality we need to distinguish which optimization is really helpful for our WordPress website and which are not much helpful and which is not necessary in order to get high page speed score. So this is 4 main components and fifth is hosting, which we don't change much. We generally stick with one hosting, but let's start with things that we can change and things that we can use. So it's a beginner-friendly tutorial that will explain which optimizations worth to take and how they can help to speed up your WordPress website. So let's see first how WordPress Cache is working and which cache is important and which is helpful to speed up your WordPress website. This chart shows how user retrieves a page from your website. Here is user request starts, and this is WordPress. It gets to WordPress, and within WordPress it also gets information from database and from other places as well. So initially user uses a web browser, and web browser has its own caching mechanism. When a user visits a website, JavaScript, CSS, and images are cached in browser. This browser cache saves those files, and when you navigate other page of the website, those already loaded images and CSS files, JavaScript files will be used, and user will load less data. Generally, they will load document and maybe a couple new images, but most images and most JavaScript and CSS files will already be inside user's browser's cache. Most WordPress hosts already optimized and they already have browser cache enabled. To see that browser cache, you can navigate to your website. This is my website in incognito window, and if I press F12 in Chrome browser, it will show me debug window, and here I can switch to network tab and refresh this page, and here we can see that lots of styles, JavaScript images are loaded. When we click on, say for example, on style, it will show us extra information about that file, and here we can see that it's cached and it shows us expires in like 10-11 years later. So now it's 2026 and it will expire in 2037. So until that time, this style sheet file will be saved in browser cache. So when I visit to other page, say if I navigate to other page, that style will be loaded from browser cache. It will not be loaded from server. So next pages or all other pages will be much faster, because those files, lots of files will be already used from browser cache. And if your files are not cached in browser, then you can contact your hosting provider and explain that assets are not cached and how you can enable browser cache for your WordPress website. Generally, WordPress document is not cached, but all assets are cached in browser cache, and it will really speed up next page navigations or navigating within your website. Users will really feel that difference and will be happy using and browsing your website. Next, after browser cache, which is important, there is a CDN cache, which is a bit advanced type of cache. It's also easy to apply, but for beginners, you can skip this CDN cache. Then after CDN, it goes to server cache. So now user request access the server where WordPress hosts. So it can be in different country, in different continent. So it can be far away from the real user. So on server, we also have a caching mechanism, and it's also advanced for beginners. We don't need that server cache. After server cache, request enters the WordPress itself. So this is where WordPress decides what content, how to generate page and how to show it to the user. In WordPress, we have a page cache. Page cache is not built in, it's provided by plugins, custom plugins. You can install any plugin in WordPress, and it's better to install a page cache plugin. So every time when page requests, you don't get information from database. So database is slowest part of the WordPress. And to speed up that page retrieval and page generation, page cache is used. So which plugin to use in WordPress? I prefer using simplest plugin. I use a plugin called Cache Enabler. You go to plugins, add plugin page, and here search for Cache Enabler. It's this plugin, it's free, and it's really easy and simple plugin, but it's very effective plugin. And after installing and activating it, I get to Settings, Cache Enabler page. And I have a separate tutorial how to optimize, how to use these settings in Cache Enabler. I will link to those tutorials in description so you can watch them, detailed tutorials. And as you can see, I uncheck everything and I don't clear cache automatically. I prefer clearing it manually by pressing this button whenever I update my blog. And I generally update once a week or a couple times a month. So I don't need to automatically clear the cache. And this is how easy it is. You just install it and that's it. That's how page will be cached. Uncheck everything and save settings. And in dashboard, you can see how much data, how much space is used by page cache. So I have around 100 posts and it uses around 8 megabytes of cache, which is great. Those 100 or maybe 150 pages in total will be loaded from WordPress Cache. And it really speeds up how pages are loaded. And it's a main part of optimization for page speed for not logged in users. And after page cache, there is another option which is mostly talked about is a Redis cache, which is object cache. And it stores objects that are faster. It's stored in memory, so they are faster than accessing database. And if you have a big memory, if you have a dedicated or virtual private server with 8 GB RAM or bigger RAM, then you can use Redis cache and pay attention to use Redis cache on same server. Otherwise, if you need to access other server for Redis cache, then it will still be slow because there is not much difference accessing database and accessing Redis cache from other server. It's complicated and it's expensive solution using Redis cache. For that reason, it's not advised for beginners, and I personally don't use Redis cache, and I am having a really good page speed scores, 90 plus, and in most cases close to 100 page speed score for all my WordPress websites. And then the last part where data is stored and retrieved by WordPress is database, and this is the slowest portion of the WordPress website. Its database also has its own caching mechanism, and which is not easy to optimize, easy to access, because if you are using a shared hosting, you cannot access the database cache or any other advanced features. And for that reason, for caching a WordPress website, mostly browser cache and page cache is used, and browser cache is automatically optimized or automatically set up by a web server, and all you need to have is to install and manage page cache. And other caching like CDN server or Redis cache are advanced options which can be applied but are not necessary for getting high page speed score. So you can perfectly skip them and get really fast WordPress website. Also, this page cache is for not logged in users, so it's mostly 90% or 95% of your visitors. They are not logged in. They will just check your articles, watch your videos, and read publicly accessible data. And most bots definitely will use this page cache. They cannot log in, as you know. So Page Cache is resource saver for your WordPress website, and it's easy to install, easy to optimize, and easy to use solution. Every beginner can use it and apply it. So after Page Cache, let's check how to optimize CSS files in WordPress. There are also many optimization options with CSS. And generally, if you have one or two CSS files in your WordPress website, then you don't need to optimize it. It's already optimized. So when you choose your theme, pay attention to CSS usage. Like most optimized themes use a single CSS file, and you can check it by visiting your website again in incognito window. Just refresh it and click F12 and check this network tab. And here you will see all requests made, and you can filter further by clicking this filter button and click CSS. And as you can see, I have a single CSS file for my website. So whichever page I navigate, only one CSS file will be used, as you can see here. If it's only single CSS, you don't need to optimize it. It's already optimized by your theme, which is great. You don't need to do anything. If you have multiple CSS files, if you see there are too many CSS files, then you can choose to inline all CSS files. By inlining, you remove that request, because CSS is a render blocking assets. They will show blank page for some time, for a couple seconds maybe, to the user, and then show content. And when you inline it, content will be instantly shown, because the CSS will be loaded with main document, and your site will feel fast, and you will get higher page speed score. So this is all optimizing your WordPress for page speed. For fonts, choose to asynchronously load CSS files related to font. When you use custom font for icons or for text, you can still use a regular font, default font, and then load custom fonts later asynchronously without blocking main content. If you are using like Google Fonts or etc., I have a tutorial for that as well. So I will link to that video, how to asynchronously load CSS and how to inline multiple CSS files. And here are optimizations that are not necessary, because they are outdated and they are not helping much for increasing page speed. So let's check merging CSS files. So remember, if you have too many CSS files, it's better to inline instead of merging them and providing as an external CSS file. Because when WordPress plugins try to merge multiple CSS files, not all pages will have all the same CSS files. So on one page, you may have 5 different CSS. On next page, you may have 3 different CSS. So when you merge, you will have different CSS file for different page. And at the end, you will end up having too many CSS files, which will be cached and which will be used maybe on 1 or 2 pages. And this merging process also takes CPU power as well, and it adds additionally lots of CSS files, and which you need to clear over time. And when you use Page Cache, as we mentioned before, then these merged files can be deleted and you will end up with broken pages. To avoid those mistakes and those complications, don't use CSS merging. And it's not effective anymore. If you used it in past, now you can avoid it and be fine with inlining all CSS files. Minify and compress. Again, minification and compression is done automatically by server, so you don't need to use a plugin for compressing CSS files. Minification is, there is not much difference minified and not minified CSS when you compress them. So it's only like maybe 10-20 kilobytes, and which is really nothing in today's internet speed. So it's not advised to use them, because they are using extra CPU, not in the server, but they are processed inside PHP if you use it with plugin. So it's not recommended. It may even slow down your web server. And preloading tells that load certain content before other content, but CSS is already files. They are generally second file or third file after main document, so you don't need explicitly preload them. And with preloading, generally preloading is manual operation, and over time you will forget about this preloading thing and you will end up preloading not necessary files, which will harm your page speed score. So in order to avoid complications in future, don't use preloading. Same applies to font preloading as well. So you may just in design, when you are inside WordPress, just switch your font, find another font and just click it without thinking about optimization, and it will break your preloading because you will have old fonts preloaded and new fonts are not preloaded. So the web browser will load old preloaded fonts as well, even if you are not using them. So it will harm your page speed score. I have also separate video which shows how preloading fonts can ruin your page speed. So after CSS, next optimization is images. Let's talk about image optimization in WordPress. There are also multiple options to optimize images. First of all is compress your images. Don't use 3-4 megabyte images. Generally, all those images can be compressed to 100 kilobyte JPEG file or PNG file. Generally, JPEG is fine for photos, images, and if you have some text, some diagram, then use PNG or GIF files. And compression is really nice optimization and really helpful optimization. You can, if you are optimizing existing website and you have lots of big images, then you can use plugins to automatically compress existing images. Or if you are uploading images on computer and you know what you are doing, then you can compress them before uploading to the WordPress website. If you want to automate compression process, and if you have multiple editors which also upload images and add posts to your WordPress website, then compression using a plugin will be much suitable for you. And next step is lazy load images. Lazy load is a great feature because if your page have say 10 images and only one is visible initially, website will load only one image. So for example, on this page, as you can see, there is no visible image. If you scroll, then images start appear and browser will load these images just before they appear. So initially they will not be loaded, they will be loaded later. So as you can see here, some of them are not loaded yet. As I scroll, they start loading, as you can see. So it's a great free feature that will speed up your WordPress, which is really helpful, and it's automatically with latest versions of WordPress, it's automatically using lazy load feature. So you don't need to use any plugin for this. Mostly it will work out of the box. And what are not necessary optimizations? So there are new image compressions like WebP, Aviv. So they are new and they compress even better, like as I mentioned, like 1 megabyte image can be compressed to 100 kilobyte with regular JPEG, but can be compressed further like to 80 kilobytes with WebP. But it's a little bit more compression than regular JPEG. In addition, it will create two versions of the image, and it will try to serve two versions as well. For old browser, it will serve JPEG version, and for new browser, it will serve WebP or Aviv version, which is unnecessary complication. You don't need to have that WebP, and my websites are really fine and fast without using WebP or Aviv compression. It's just like extra big compression, which is improving maybe, 10 or 20% of additional improvement in comparison to WebP optimization, WebP compression. So it's not worth spending your server resources further compressing them. I have even seen WebP images bigger than JPEG images. And next optimization is again preloading. You don't need to preload. You need to lazy load images, because preloading, you can only preload your logo, but it's one of the first images will be your logo, so you don't need to preload it explicitly. Because as I said, you can forget about it in future and will end up preloading wrong or old version of your logo, which will not be used on your pages. Next optimization is JavaScript. We have, again, multiple options and which is effective and which are not effective. Let's see. So first thing, and this is the most effective option for JavaScript optimization, is lazy loading. It works similar to images, like principle is same. You load JavaScript only when you want to use it. When page is loaded, JavaScript is some dynamic interaction, so it can be related to showing pop-up or tracking Google Analytics or showing an advertisement or some interaction on your page, like showing menu, for example, when you click on menu icon. And it's not the first thing that you see on your website. Generally, you see static content, some text, some image, and then when you want to click on it, when you want to click on some button, or when you want to scroll, or when you want to hover your mouse on some content, then JavaScript is used. And for that reason, you can load JavaScript like after some delay, after loading your main content, main images, main document. By delaying JavaScript, you are prioritizing images, prioritizing CSS style, so your web page will be readable and information will be accessible without JavaScript. So this is the most effective way of optimizing JavaScript, by lazy loading them. Generally, you will have JavaScript with your theme, with your plugins, and you don't know exactly by name which JavaScript files will be used, but you can optimize them all at once just by folder. It's really easy to optimize for JavaScript. I use a plugin called Flying Scripts for lazy loading JavaScript, and there is only one setting that you need to apply. It's which JavaScript files to lazy load. And as you can see, I lazy load all plugin JavaScript files, and all inline JavaScript I can also lazy load that rely on jQuery. Also, I lazy load Google Analytics and Google AdSense and some command related JavaScript and jQuery migrate JavaScript as well. By using these keywords, I lazy load all JavaScript files except main jQuery JavaScript. And if no interaction happens, all of them will be loaded after 5-second delay. So that's the main part of optimization, which is mostly neglected. This is overlooked feature, which is easy to use. Just use simple plugin, Flying Scripts. It's a free plugin. It doesn't have any upsells that annoy you. So it's hidden in settings. You don't even see if you don't want to change some settings. And I really like it. I have other tutorials where I use this Flying Scripts plugin. I show how to use it and how to test it with PageSpeed scores, etc. So you can watch that video if you want to learn how helpful this lazy loading JavaScript or PageSpeed score. And then there are optimizations that are not much effective. So merging, again, it uses your processor power. It creates lots of different versions of JavaScript. So you end up with more JavaScript files than you have originally. And minification is not worth it. It will use your CPU like processor power, but in return it will get very little improvement, like it can be neglected, that improvement. Compression should be done on server level, not on WordPress level, so don't do any PHP site compression. Leave compression to servers, to Nginx server, for example, or to CDN, to Cloudflare CDN. It's handled by server much faster, much easier, without stressing your PHP. And preloading, again, can be forgotten and you don't need to preload. If you optimize everything properly, you don't need to use preloading, because preloading says load this content first before other content. But if you load every content in its required order, then you don't need to bother with preloading. That's important parts of optimizing JavaScript. I mentioned also, which is not important as well. And last thing that you want to optimize is hosting, because you don't change your hosting every month or every week. If you are fine with website speed, if you are fine with hosting price, then you don't change it. You just extend its payment. I am using my hosting for, I don't know, maybe 10 years without changing it, and because I am happy, because I don't need to move, because it needs my website needs. I have around 10 sites on my hosting, which works great. And how to know if you have a fast or slow hosting, if it's enough for you or not? You can use a plugin, info plugin, which will show how long it took to load the page. As you can see here, it took 0.8 seconds to load this page. And if you navigate to other pages in your admin, in your front end, and notice this total page generation time, as you can see, it's half second. If you refresh the page, it will show another number. So it's again around half second. So half second is okay, but if you constantly see here like more than 1 second, like 1 or 2 seconds constantly, when you refresh, when you navigate to other pages, then you probably need to change your host. But if you see half second, or for fast websites, you may see even 0.1 second, which means 100 milliseconds, then it's really fast server, really fast servers. Also check your admin pages as well. So you should have a fast admin site as well, because when you edit content, when you add content, when you navigate inside your admin, you also need to use a fast website. Also, if you have some membership, some user login areas, then that page also need to be fast. So here we see that it's around 1 second for admin pages. Don't just read one page, just navigate around and see how this number changes. If you see like more than 1 second most of the time, then you probably need to move to faster hosting. If you see lower than 1 second, you will be okay with your web hosting. Let me show which plugin is this. You can search info space web vitally and scroll down and see this plugin that will show the information. It's tiny plugin. It will not take much resources from your existing WordPress website. So that's it. That's how you optimize your WordPress website for page speed. Once you understand what's important and what optimization is not important, you will get a 90 plus page speed score much easily. And I have separate tutorials showing exactly how to optimize, how to get 100 page speed score or 90 plus page speed score. Check those tutorials. Also, I have a downloadable PDF checklist that I use to optimize all my WordPress websites. So checklist helps to apply every optimization without skipping any of them and get high page speed score, 90 plus page speed score. And you can download that checklist from my website, webpa.com/speed. It's simple to follow, PDF checklist. And thank you for watching and sharing this video. See you in next videos. Bye.